Have you ever walked into a room and noticed someone who just seems different? They're not necessarily the loudest person there. They might not be commanding the conversation, yet you can't help but feel drawn to them. There's a quiet confidence, a sense of calm, an unshakable poise that seems to radiate from them. They command respect without demanding it, and they hold your attention without ever raising their voice. This isn't about charisma in the traditional, flashy sense. This is something far more powerful, far more enduring. This is a magnetic presence. And what if I told you that this isn't some elusive gift reserved for a chosen few, but a quality you can consciously build from the inside out? For centuries, the ancient philosophy of Stoicism has been a quiet guide for those seeking to live with virtue, resilience, and profound inner strength. Its principles were practiced by Roman emperors, enlightened thinkers, and leaders who shaped history, not by being the most aggressive, but by being the most centered. They understood a fundamental truth, that true influence doesn't come from controlling the world around you, but from mastering the world within you. Your presence, that invisible energy you carry into every interaction, is a direct reflection of that inner world. It's built on the thoughts you choose to entertain, the perspectives you adopt, and the principles you live by. So how do you cultivate that kind of grounded, compelling energy? It begins by rewiring your thinking. In this journey together, we will explore 25 powerful Stoic thoughts, each one a building block for forging an unshakable core and a presence that naturally draws people in. This isn't about learning tricks or putting on a mask. This is about a fundamental shift in how you see yourself and your place in the world. We're about to delve into the mental frameworks that allow you to remain calm in chaos, to be decisive in uncertainty, and to project a warmth and assurance that makes others feel safe and valued in your company. Get ready to discover how the wisdom of the Stoics can help you become that person in the room, the one who is noticed not for their noise, but for their profound and magnetic silence. Our journey into these 25 thoughts begins with what is arguably the bedrock of the entire Stoic philosophy, a principle so fundamental that everything else is built upon it. This is the dichotomy of control, the practice of rigidly separating everything in your life into two distinct categories. On one side, you have the things that are within your control. This is a surprisingly short list containing only your own judgments, your values, your opinions, your desires, your aversions, and the actions you choose to take. In short, it is your inner world, your character, and your voluntary choices. Everything else, and this is the vast, sprawling expanse of life, belongs in the second category, the things that are not within your control. This includes your reputation, your wealth, your health, the past, the future, what other people think of you, the weather, and the actions of others. The profound mental shift, the one that begins to build your magnetic presence, happens the moment you stop wasting your precious energy and emotional capacity fighting the things in that second category and pour all of it into mastering the first. Think about the last time you saw someone get visibly flustered by a traffic jam, or become deeply upset by a critical comment from a stranger online, or grow anxious waiting for a text message reply. In each of those moments, that person was pouring their inner resources, their focus, their peace, their emotional stability into something they have zero direct command over. They are trying to control the uncontrollable, and the inevitable result is frustration, anxiety, and a reactive energy that others can sense immediately. Now contrast that with the person who embodies this Stoic thought. When their flight is delayed, they don't spend an hour complaining at the gate agent. They recognize the delay is outside their control, so they calmly pull out a book, make a productive phone call, or simply use the time to sit in quiet observation. When they receive unfair criticism, they don't lash out or crumple. They assess it, take from it any useful grain of truth they can control, their own future actions, and calmly disregard the rest, which was never in their power to change anyway. This is not passivity, it is the ultimate form of empowered action. By focusing only on your own sphere of choice, you become the calm eye of the storm in a chaotic world. This is what people are drawn to. This focused intentionality projects a palpable sense of competence and self-possession. People feel that you are not easily knocked off balance by external events, that you have a solid inner core that remains unshaken. This reliability is magnetic because it creates a sense of safety and trust. Others intuitively know that your reactions are not dictated by circumstance, but by a deep, unwavering principle. You stop being a leaf blown by the wind of other people's opinions and random events, and you become the tree firmly rooted, with your energy directed inward toward your own growth and outward with purposeful action. This is the very first and most crucial step in building a presence that isn't just noticed, but is respected and deeply trusted. Building on that foundation of focusing only on what you can control, we come to a Stoic practice that might seem counterintuitive at first, but is absolutely transformative for developing a commanding, unflappable presence. This is the deliberate and conscious practice of voluntary discomfort. The idea is simple yet profound. You intentionally seek out small, manageable hardships in your daily life. This could be taking a cold shower instead of a warm one, occasionally skipping a meal to practice fasting, walking instead of driving for a short errand, or even choosing to sit on a hard chair for a period instead of a comfortable couch. Now, why on earth would you do this? It's not about punishing yourself or embracing a life of misery. It's about training your mind and spirit in the exact same way an athlete trains their body. An athlete doesn't wait for the big game to get in shape. They put their body through rigorous, planned practice sessions to build strength and endurance for the moment it truly counts. Voluntary discomfort is the mental and emotional equivalent of that daily workout. Each time you choose a minor hardship, you are sending a powerful message to your deepest self. You are proving through action that your comfort is not your master. You are demonstrating that you can willingly endure inconvenience, slight pain, or an unmet desire, and emerge completely unscathed on the other side. This repeated practice builds a reservoir of resilience that is absolutely priceless. Imagine two people facing a sudden, significant challenge at work. A critical project falls through at the last minute. One person who has lived a life chasing only comfort and avoiding any hint of difficulty is immediately thrown into a panic. Their heart races, their mind floods with anxiety, and their energy becomes frantic and scattered. Everyone around them can feel this turbulence. It's contagious and it creates an atmosphere of crisis. Now, observe the person who has practiced voluntary discomfort. The project failure is a much larger challenge than a cold shower, certainly, but the neural pathways are the same. Their mind has been conditioned to recognize discomfort, to sit with it, and to understand that it is temporary and survivable. Instead of panicking, they take a calm breath. Their composure remains intact. They might even feel a sense of focus and determination, seeing the problem not as a world-ending catastrophe, but as a difficult situation to be navigated. This is the composure that others find incredibly compelling and trustworthy. When you are that person in the room, your calm is a silent anchor for everyone else. People are drawn to that stability. They see that you are not rattled by setbacks, that you possess a grit that goes deeper than circumstance. This isn't a stoic facade you put on when trouble hits. It's a muscle you've been building every single day in small, intentional ways. That practiced toughness translates directly into a presence that communicates without a single word being spoken. I can handle this, we can handle this. It inspires confidence and makes people want to follow your lead because they sense an inner fortitude that cannot be easily shaken. Now, imagine taking that resilient mindset one step further, moving from merely accepting hardship to actively loving it. This brings us to the third and perhaps most radical Stoic thought, amor fati, a Latin phrase that translates to a love of one's fate. This is not about passive resignation or putting on a happy face when things go wrong. Amor fati is an active, dynamic stance toward life. It is the deliberate choice to embrace everything that happens to you, every setback, every obstacle, every piece of so-called bad luck, not as a curse to be endured, but as a necessary and valuable part of your journey. The Stoics believed that the world is a single, interconnected, rational whole, and that everything that occurs is part of a larger, purposeful pattern. Whether you believe in a divine plan or simply in the chaotic interplay of cause and effect, the practical power of amor fati remains the same. It completely reframes your relationship with adversity. When you practice loving your fate, you eradicate the victim mentality at its root. You stop seeing yourself as a passive target of life's whims and start seeing yourself as an active participant whose primary power lies in your response. This shift is utterly transformative for your presence. Consider two different artists. The first one has a commissioned painting ruined by a sudden rainstorm. He spirals into anger and despair, lamenting his terrible fortune, wasting days complaining about the lost time and money. His energy becomes bitter and defeatist, and people around him start to feel the weight of that negativity. Now imagine the second artist who embodies amor fati. The same rain ruins her painting. She might feel a flash of initial disappointment, but it's quickly replaced by a different thought. What does this make possible? She looks at the water-soaked canvas, the colors bleeding into each other in unexpected ways, and she sees a new artistic technique she'd never considered. Her disaster becomes the inspiration for a completely new, more innovative series of work. This is the essence of the famous Stoic phrase, "The obstacle is the way." The obstacle is not a blocking force, it is the very path forward itself. It provides the friction that allows you to gain traction. It presents the raw material, the difficulty that you are meant to transform into a testament to your own character and creativity. When you internalize this thought, your entire demeanor changes. You stop being someone who is easily defeated and become someone who is perpetually resourceful. People are instinctively drawn to this kind of proactive, optimistic energy. It's not a naive, blind optimism that ignores reality, but a robust, gritty optimism that sees reality clearly and chooses to find the opportunity within it. This creates an aura of invincibility, not because you are immune to problems, but because people witness that problems cannot break your spirit. They see you encounter a setback, and instead of collapsing, you lean in with curiosity and determination. This is magnetic because it's so rare. In a world where most people broadcast their grievances, the person who loves their fate stands out as a beacon of strength and possibility. They don't just bounce back from difficulty, they use it as a launching pad to propel themselves forward, and in doing so, they inspire everyone around them to do the same. And from that profound embrace of fate, we turn to a thought that might seem like its direct opposite, but is in fact its perfect companion. This is memento mori, the Latin reminder that translates to a simple, inescapable truth: remember that you will die. Now, on the surface, this sounds dark, even morbid. Our modern culture often goes to great lengths to avoid any thought of death, treating it as a distant, abstract concept or a terrifying specter to be ignored. But the Stoics and many other wisdom traditions saw this remembrance not as a source of fear, but as the ultimate source of clarity and liberation. Think of it not as a morbid countdown, but as the most powerful prioritizing tool you will ever possess. When you consciously hold the finitude of your life in your mind, something remarkable happens to your perception. All the noise of life, the petty grievances, the social anxieties, the endless pursuit of superficial validation, it all starts to fall away, revealing what truly matters. Imagine you're having a heated argument with a colleague over a minor procedural detail. The tension is high, your ego is fully engaged, and you're determined to prove your point. Now, in the middle of that, you consciously bring to mind the fact that your time on this earth is limited and profoundly precious. Does winning that specific argument truly deserve a significant portion of your one irreplaceable life? Does the sting of their criticism really matter in the grand tapestry of your existence? Almost always, the answer is a clear and calming no. This practice installs a mental filter that automatically sifts the essential from the trivial. It infuses your days with a gentle but persistent urgency, not a frantic, panicked hurry, but a deep and purposeful drive to ensure that your actions align with your highest values. You begin to waste less time on things that, in the end, won't matter. You become more likely to have that difficult but necessary conversation, to start that project you've been dreaming about, to tell the people you love how you feel about them. This shift creates a presence that is incredibly magnetic because it is so fully alive and authentic. A person who is acutely aware of their mortality does not have the patience for pretense or posturing. They are more direct, more genuine, and more present in their interactions. They listen more intently because they know this conversation is happening now and will never happen again in exactly this way. They are less concerned with impressing others and more focused on connecting with them. This creates a rare and captivating quality of depth. People feel that when they are with you, they have your full and undivided attention, that you are not mentally elsewhere, calculating your next move or worrying about your image. You are simply there, engaged and real. This authenticity is a powerful attractor. It puts others at ease and allows for a level of connection that is impossible when everyone is wearing social armor. Memento mori is the practice that strips away that armor, leaving only the true, unvarnished you, a person acting with intention, speaking with sincerity, and living with a purpose that is palpable to everyone you meet. It turns the awareness of an ending into the very thing that makes every beginning and every moment in between vibrantly meaningful. This next Stoic practice is a kind of mental time travel, a profound exercise in perspective that has the power to instantly dissolve anxiety and shrink the ego down to its proper size. It's called the view from above, and it's a deliberate visualization technique where you pull your consciousness back, far back, to see your life and your current situation from a vast cosmic vantage point. Begin by picturing yourself in this very moment, sitting in your chair, watching this video with all the thoughts and concerns occupying your mind. Now, in your mind's eye, rise up. Float above your room, seeing your building as just one among many. Rise higher until your entire town or city is laid out beneath you like a map, with cars moving like tiny ants and people as minuscule specks. Keep going, see your country, then the whole continent, the beautiful, curved blue marble of the earth hanging in the utter blackness of space. Watch the planet turn without any concern for the meetings, the deadlines, the social dramas unfolding on its surface. From here, your personal struggles, the argument you had yesterday, the project you're stressed about, the criticism that felt so piercing, what are they? From this cosmic distance, they are less than a whisper. They are transient patterns in the unimaginably long and complex story of humanity itself. This isn't meant to make you feel insignificant in a negative way, but to grant you the liberating gift of proportion. The ego thrives on a false sense of centrality, convincing you that your problems are the absolute center of the universe. The view from above shatters that illusion, revealing the breathtaking truth of your small but precious place in a vast, awe-inspiring cosmos. When you make this a regular mental habit, something remarkable begins to happen to your demeanor. You carry this expanded perspective back with you into your daily life. That coworker who is being difficult is no longer just a personal antagonist. From this higher view, you might see them as a person acting out of their own fears and insecurities, caught in their own tiny, looping drama on this spinning rock. The traffic jam that would have ruined your morning becomes a minor, temporary congestion in the flow of a single city on a single planet. This doesn't make you detached or uncaring. On the contrary, it often fosters a deeper, more compassionate connection to others because you see that everyone is like you, a tiny being trying to find their way under the same stars. This cultivated perspective is the very essence of what people perceive as wisdom. The wise person isn't the one who knows all the answers, but the one who understands the true scale of things. They don't get swept up in the temporary hysteria of a crisis because they hold the long view. In a room full of people panicking over a sudden problem, the individual who has practiced the view from above remains grounded. Their calm is not indifference, it is a profound recognition that this, too, is a passing moment in the grand scheme. This creates an aura of immense stability. People are drawn to this person because they provide an anchor in the storm. They seem to possess a secret knowledge, a quiet understanding that everything will ultimately be okay, not because they are naive, but because they have truly grasped the bigger picture. Your problems don't disappear, but your relationship to them is forever changed. They lose their power to dominate your emotional state. This is how you build a presence that isn't rattled by the chaos of the moment, a presence that feels both ancient and deeply grounded, a calm port in the ever-changing seas of life. And it is from this place of profound perspective that we find the wisdom to govern one of our most powerful and most frequently misused tools, our own speech. This brings us to our sixth Stoic thought, the disciplined practice of speaking only when necessary. In a world saturated with constant noise, where everyone seems compelled to fill every silence with an opinion, a story, or a piece of unsolicited advice, the act of choosing your words with extreme care becomes a superpower. The Stoics, like Seneca and Epictetus, repeatedly warned against the dangers of careless talk. They saw speech not as a right to be exercised without thought, but as a resource to be deployed with precision and intent. The core principle here is to ask yourself a simple but transformative question before you speak. Is what I am about to say true? Is it necessary? Is it kind? This three-part filter, employed consistently, will silence the vast majority of the words that might otherwise leap from your mouth. So much of our everyday conversation is not communication at all. It is noise generated by our own insecurities. We gossip to feel a sense of belonging. We interrupt to prove our intelligence. We offer unsought opinions to assert our relevance. And we complain to seek validation for our struggles. Each time we engage in this, we leak our personal power and project an energy of neediness and internal turbulence. Now, contrast that with the individual who has mastered the art of measured speech. They are comfortable in silence. They listen not just to formulate their own response, but to truly understand the person speaking. When they do choose to speak, their words carry weight because they are not diluted by a stream of irrelevance. Their silence is not empty or awkward. It is full of presence and observation. It communicates confidence because a person who is secure in themselves does not need to constantly prove their worth through verbal gymnastics. Think about a typical team meeting. One person dominates the conversation, jumping in with thoughts on every topic, often repeating what has already been said or venturing into tangents. While they may initially seem engaged, their constant input eventually loses its impact. People start to tune them out. Then there is the person who has been quietly listening, absorbing all the points of view. When they finally lean forward and speak, the entire room tends to quiet down and pay attention. Their contribution is often the one that synthesizes the discussion, offers the clarifying question, or presents the well-considered solution. This is the respect that earned silence commands. Your words become like gold, rare and valuable. This practice also protects you from the myriad of social pitfalls that come with excessive talk. You are far less likely to spread rumors, to make promises you cannot keep, to offend someone with a careless remark, or to reveal information that should remain private. You become a vault, and people intuitively understand that they can trust you with their confidence. This builds a reputation for integrity and discretion that is incredibly magnetic. People are drawn to those who make them feel heard and understood, not to those who are always waiting for their turn to talk. By speaking less, you create space for others, and in doing so, you make them feel valued. This deliberate, thoughtful approach to communication projects a deep sense of inner calm and self-control. It shows that you are the master of your impulses, that your mind is a disciplined place where thoughts are examined before they are given voice. In the end, the Stoic practice of speaking only when necessary isn't about being quiet. It's about ensuring that when you do choose to break your silence, your words are not just heard, but they are felt, remembered, and respected. This next thought is a profound exercise in human understanding, one that has the potential to completely transform your relationships and the energy you bring into every interaction. It's the practice of actively seeing the virtue in others, of deliberately looking for the good and the reasoning behind people's actions, especially when they have wronged you. On its face, this can seem almost impossibly difficult. When someone cuts you off in traffic, insults you, or betrays your trust, the immediate, visceral reaction is to judge them as malicious, foolish, or simply bad. The Stoics propose a radical alternative: to pause that judgment and instead make a conscious effort to see the world from their perspective. The core idea here is that no one consciously chooses evil for its own sake. As the philosopher Emperor Marcus Aurelius repeatedly reminded himself in his private writings, people do what they do because they believe it is the right or necessary thing from their limited point of view. Someone who lies might be acting out of a deep-seated fear of confrontation or a perceived need for self-preservation. A person who is rude may be carrying a burden of pain or anxiety that you know nothing about, and their harshness is a misguided expression of their own suffering. This isn't about making excuses for bad behavior or becoming a doormat. It's about recognizing that human actions are almost always symptoms of internal states, of faulty reasoning, unmet needs, or deep-seated fears. When you internalize this thought, you stop taking everything so personally. The insult that was hurled your way is no longer just an attack on you. It's a reflection of the turmoil inside the person delivering it. This shift is a superpower for emotional resilience. Imagine you're in a team meeting and a colleague aggressively shoots down your proposal. The untrained mind would immediately see an enemy, feel anger, and likely prepare a counterattack. This creates a cycle of conflict and defensive energy that everyone in the room can feel. Now, imagine you've trained yourself in this Stoic practice. Instead of reacting, you get curious. You might think, he must feel very threatened by this idea to react so strongly, or she is under immense pressure from her department and sees this as a risk to her own goals. From this place of understanding, your response changes completely. You might say, "It seems like you have some strong concerns about this. Can you help me understand what specific risks you're seeing?" This does not guarantee harmony, but it instantly de-escalates the situation and transforms a potential battlefield into a space for problem solving. Your calm, inquisitive response demonstrates a level of emotional maturity and control that is incredibly compelling to witness. This practice cultivates a deep and genuine empathy. When you make a habit of looking for the reasoning behind actions, you begin to see the shared humanity in everyone. You recognize that everyone, just like you, is fighting a hard battle you know nothing about. This makes you a profoundly safe person to be around. People sense that you are not quick to condemn, that you strive to understand before you judge. This safety is magnetic. Colleagues, friends, and even strangers will feel drawn to confide in you, to seek your counsel, because they trust that they will be met with comprehension rather than criticism. You become a harbor in the storm of human judgment. Your presence communicates that it's okay to be imperfect, to struggle, to make mistakes. This doesn't mean you condone poor behavior. You can still set firm boundaries and hold people accountable. But you do so from a place of clarity and compassion, not from a place of reactive anger. The energy you project is one of stability and understanding, and in a world full of snap judgments and harsh criticisms, that is a rare and beautiful quality that people will naturally gravitate toward. This brings us to a cornerstone of Stoic psychology, a realization that once fully grasped becomes your ultimate source of inner freedom. It is the understanding that your mind is your fortress. The outside world is full of events, comments, and situations that we traditionally label as good or bad. But the Stoics observed a more fundamental truth. These external things are, in themselves, neutral. They are just things that happen. What gives them power, what makes them feel devastating or exhilarating, is not the event itself, but the judgment your mind places upon it. The insult is just a collection of sounds or shapes on a screen until your mind interprets it as a personal attack and chooses to feel wounded. The traffic jam is just a line of cars until your mind labels it as a frustrating delay that is ruining your morning. The fortress concept is about building the walls of your mind so strong that these external arrows, these neutral events, cannot penetrate and disturb your inner peace without your conscious permission. This isn't about suppressing emotion or becoming numb. It's about inserting a crucial space between the event and your reaction, a space where your rational faculty gets to assess the situation and choose its response. Imagine two people receiving the exact same critical feedback from their boss. The first person's mind, an unguarded city, immediately lets the criticism in. It triggers a cascade of insecure thoughts. I'm a failure, she doesn't respect me, my job is at risk. This internal storm then manifests as defensive body language, a shaky voice, or a week of anxious dread. The second person, who has been building their mental fortress, receives the same words, but in that space between the event and the reaction, they pause. They consciously assess the feedback. They ask, is this true? Is there a useful piece of information here I can use to improve? Is this more about my boss's bad day than my actual performance? By doing this, they strip the criticism of its raw, emotional power and turn it into mere data that they can then choose to use or discard. The criticism did not change, the perception of it did. This is the essence of building an unassailable inner citadel. You begin this construction project by becoming a vigilant observer of your own thoughts. You start to notice the automatic judgments that pop into your head. When you feel a surge of anger because someone was rude, you pause and say to yourself, I am having the thought that this person is intentionally trying to offend me. This slight mental reframe creates distance. You are no longer the thought, you are the observer of the thought. This is the moment you reclaim your power. You then arm your fortress with rational principles. When you feel hurt by a comment, you can deploy a Stoic maxim like, it is not events that disturb people, but their judgments about them, or the opinion of another is outside my control. These are not just quotes to be read, they are cognitive tools to be used in real time to disarm incoming threats. When you consistently practice this, you begin to project a powerful sense of self-containment. People will notice that you are not easily thrown off course by gossip, by minor setbacks, or by the need for constant external validation. You carry your own weather with you. In a room full of people reacting emotionally to some office drama, you remain steady. You don't get swept into the frenzy of outrage or anxiety. Your calm is not aloofness, it is a demonstrated strength of character. This self-containment is magnetic because it is so rare. It tells others non-verbally that you are governed by an internal compass, not by the shifting winds of external opinion or circumstance. People are drawn to this stability. They feel that you are a person of substance, someone who cannot be easily manipulated or emotionally destabilized. Your fortress is not a prison that isolates you. It is a stronghold that allows you to engage with the world from a place of unshakable strength and choice, making your presence both reassuring and profoundly influential. Now consider the powerful, yet often misunderstood, distinction between acting with integrity and acting for applause. This is about the purity of your motivation, the inner compass that guides your decisions when no one is watching and no reward is on the line. In a world that often celebrates the appearance of virtue, the public donation, the performative act of kindness posted online, the Stoics championed a far more demanding standard. They believed that your moral worth is determined by your private character, by the choices you make in the dark, not the ones you stage in the spotlight. When your primary motivation shifts from seeking external validation to aligning with your own deeply held principles, something fundamental changes within you. You are no longer performing for an audience, you are living in accordance with your truth. This creates a coherence between who you are on the inside and how you act on the outside that is unmistakable and deeply compelling to others. Think about a leader in your organization. One is constantly maneuvering, taking credit for team successes, and making decisions based on what will look best to upper management. Their words and actions feel calculated, designed to project an image of competence and benevolence. You might be impressed by their results initially, but over time, a subtle distrust begins to creep in. You can sense the dissonance. You never know if their kindness is genuine or a strategic move. Now, picture another leader. This person consistently gives credit to their team, even for ideas that were their own. They hold a difficult line on an ethical issue, even when it's unpopular and won't be publicly celebrated. They do the right thing simply because it is the right thing, regardless of who sees it. You may not always agree with their decisions, but you never have to question their motive. There is a profound authenticity to their presence. You trust them because their actions are not a performance, they are an expression of their character. This is the person people instinctively want to follow because their leadership is rooted in integrity, not in image. This principle applies to every facet of life. Returning the lost wallet stuffed with cash isn't truly virtuous if you only do it because you think a security camera is watching. The virtue lies in the act itself, in the choice to do what's honest when you could easily get away with the opposite. Apologizing sincerely when you've made a mistake has power not because it makes you look humble, but because it is a necessary step in repairing a breach of your own values. When you decouple your actions from the expectation of reward or recognition, you become incredibly resilient to the opinions of others. Praise becomes nice but unnecessary. Criticism loses its sting because your self-worth is not tied to the approval of the crowd. You are playing by an internal scorecard. This self-validation is what projects a quiet, unshakable confidence. People are drawn to this authenticity because it is so rare and refreshing. In a social landscape filled with people curating their lives for external approval, the person who acts from a place of genuine integrity stands out as a beacon of trustworthiness. They don't need to tell you they are honest. Their consistent actions over time tell you everything you need to know. This builds a reputation that is not based on a carefully constructed persona, but on the solid bedrock of a congruent character. Your presence becomes a promise that you will act with consistency, that your word is your bond, and that your motivations are clean. This kind of reliability is magnetic because it creates a safe and predictable environment for everyone around you. They know what to expect from you, not because you are predictable in a boring way, but because you are predictable in your commitment to your principles. This frees you from the exhausting work of maintaining a facade, allowing your energy to be directed outward in genuine connection and purposeful action, rather than being constantly drained by the internal effort of managing your image. Following the principle that our mind is our greatest fortress, we now explore a specific and powerful mental drill the Stoics used to strengthen its walls. This is premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of evils. At first, this might sound like a recipe for pessimism, sitting around imagining everything that could possibly go wrong. But that is a profound misunderstanding of its purpose. This is not anxious worrying, which is a passive and fearful reaction to vague possibilities. Premeditatio malorum is an active, systematic, and controlled exercise in mental preparation. It is the deliberate practice of visualizing potential setbacks, losses, or difficulties in vivid detail, not to scare yourself, but to inoculate yourself against the shock and disorientation they can cause if they ever occur. Think of it as a fire drill for the soul. We conduct fire drills not because we expect a fire every day, but so that if the alarm ever sounds, our bodies and minds know what to do. The panic is minimized because the path of action has already been mentally mapped. Premeditatio malorum does the exact same thing for life's inevitable adversities. The practice works by stripping the unknown of its terrifying power. Fear and anxiety thrive in the realm of the vague and the abstract. We fear losing our job, but we don't often sit down and concretely imagine what that would look like, feel like, and what our first steps would be. That vagueness allows our mind to conjure up a catastrophic, world-ending scenario. This Stoic practice forces you to bring the feared event out of the shadows and into the light of your rational mind. Let's walk through a practical example. Imagine you have a crucial presentation to a major client. The untrained mind might harbor a background dread of it going poorly. The person practicing premeditatio malorum will set aside time to specifically contemplate this possibility. They close their eyes and vividly imagine the scenario. The projector fails as they begin to speak. They feel the initial jolt of surprise, the heat in their face, but then they visualize themselves taking a calm breath. They see themselves turning to the client and saying, "It seems technology wants to test our adaptability today." Let me walk you through the key points while we get this sorted. They mentally rehearse delivering the core message from memory, using a whiteboard or a handout as a backup. They imagine the client being impressed by their composure under pressure. By doing this, they have not only prepared a contingency plan, but more importantly, they have emotionally and psychologically prepared for that specific setback. If the projector actually does fail during the real presentation, they do not experience a full-blown panic attack. They experience a moment of, this is the thing I prepared for. Their response is calm, practiced, and effective. This is the presence that inspires absolute confidence in others. When a leader faces a sudden crisis and responds not with wide-eyed fear, but with a calm, "Okay, we have a situation. Here's how we're going to handle it," that energy is contagious. It reassures everyone on the team that the person in charge is not at the mercy of events. They are already working the problem. This doesn't mean you become a cold, unfeeling robot. The goal is to reduce the destructive, paralyzing panic that often accompanies unexpected trouble, freeing up your cognitive resources to actually solve the problem at hand. Seneca put it perfectly when he said, "He who has anticipated the coming of troubles takes away their power when they arrive." You are essentially doing the emotional work up front, in the safety and quiet of your own mind, so you don't have to do it in the stressful, real-time pressure of the moment itself. This practice builds a deep-seated resilience that communicates itself through your entire demeanor. People sense that you are prepared for reality with all its bumps and bruises. They see that you are not living in a fragile fantasy where everything is supposed to go smoothly. This grounded realism is incredibly magnetic. It tells people that you are a person who can handle difficulty, that you are a safe pair of hands in a storm. In a world that often encourages us to avoid thinking about negative outcomes, the individual who has calmly and rationally prepared for them stands out as a pillar of strength and foresight. This brings us to the 11th thought, one that cuts directly against the grain of our most habitual mental reflex: the discipline of judging less and understanding more. From the moment we wake up, our minds are engaged in a constant, often frantic process of evaluation. The weather isn't just cloudy, it's bad weather. A colleague's brief email isn't just a message, it's a curt or dismissal one. This traffic isn't just traffic, it's a terrible start to the day. We are compulsive labelers, slapping judgments of good and bad onto virtually every event and interaction, often without a moment's conscious thought. The Stoics identified this very habit as a primary source of our inner turmoil. They proposed a radical alternative: to suspend these automatic judgments and adopt a stance of simple, neutral observation. This doesn't mean becoming indifferent or losing your discernment. It means shifting from being a reactive critic of life to becoming a curious investigator of it. The event itself is just the event. The judgment you layer on top of it is what creates the emotional storm within you. When you learn to separate the two, you begin to reclaim a profound inner peace. Think of your mind as a clear, still pond. Every event is a pebble thrown into it. An automatic judgment is like throwing in a large, jagged rock. It creates violent ripples and disturbs the mud at the bottom, clouding everything. A neutral observation, however, is like letting a small, smooth stone sink gently to the bottom. The surface tension is barely broken, and the water remains clear. When you practice this, you start to see that most of what we get upset about isn't the event itself, but the story we instantly tell ourselves about it. That driver who cut you off wasn't necessarily a malicious jerk. They might be a panicked parent rushing to a sick child, or simply someone who made a clumsy mistake, just as you have countless times. Your boss's distracted demeanor in your meeting isn't necessarily a sign of their disapproval of you. They might be carrying the weight of a budget crisis you know nothing about. By withholding the initial negative judgment, you give yourself the space to consider a dozen other, more plausible and less personally aggravating explanations. This shift in your internal world has a dramatic and visible effect on your external presence. The person who is constantly judging the situation, judging others, judging themselves projects an energy of tension and reactivity. You can see it in their face, their posture, the quickness of their temper. They are perpetually engaged in a low-grade war with reality, and it shows. In contrast, the person who has mastered the art of withholding judgment carries an aura of immense wisdom and calm. They are the stabilizing force in any group. When a problem arises, they don't immediately erupt with, "This is a disaster." They simply observe, "Okay, this is the situation we're in." That simple refrain changes the entire group's dynamic. It moves everyone from a panic-driven, emotional state into a problem-solving, solution-focused state. People naturally look to this person for guidance because their calm is not passive. It is a proactive calm that creates a container for effective action. They are like the non-anxious presence in a room full of anxiety, and their very being brings the collective blood pressure down. This practice also makes you a far better listener and a more trusted confidant. When someone is sharing a problem with you, if your mind is busy judging their actions, "Well, you shouldn't have done that," or "That was a foolish decision," they will sense that judgment, even if you never say a word. Your subtle facial expressions, your body language will betray you. But if you have trained yourself to listen with a neutral, observational stance, you create a space of pure acceptance. You are not there to approve or disapprove, you are there to understand. This makes people feel incredibly safe with you. They will share more, be more honest, and value your counsel more highly because they know it comes from a place of comprehension, not condemnation. You become a sanctuary for honest conversation in a world full of snap judgments. Cultivating this begins with a simple but powerful mantra. I see what is without immediately deciding what it means. When you feel the urge to label something as good or bad, pause, take a breath, describe the situation to yourself in purely factual, neutral terms. The project deadline has been moved up by 2 days rather than "This is a nightmare." He said he disagrees with my approach rather than "He's being difficult and obstructive." This mental discipline is a muscle. The more you exercise it, the stronger it becomes. Over time, you will find that the world feels less like a series of personal attacks or fortunate windfalls, and more like a complex flow of events to be engaged with intelligently and compassionately. Your internal turmoil diminishes, and in its place grows a steady, resilient calm that others can't help but be drawn to. A presence that feels both deeply intelligent and profoundly safe. This relentless practice of observing without instantly judging naturally primes your mind for the next transformative Stoic shift, which is to actively seek out the lesson hidden within every single setback. Think of life not as a series of random events that happen to you, but as a continuous, personalized curriculum designed for your growth. Every failure, every obstacle, every moment of friction is not an interruption of your path. It is the path itself, offering a specific, hands-on lesson you need to learn to become a stronger, wiser, and more capable version of yourself. This reframing transforms you from a victim of circumstance into a perpetual student of life, and the energy this creates is incredibly magnetic. People are drawn to those who are always learning, always evolving, because that growth mindset is inherently optimistic and forward-looking. It radiates a belief that no experience is ever truly wasted. Consider two entrepreneurs whose first startups fail spectacularly. The first sees the failure as a final verdict on their abilities. They internalize it as proof that they are not cut out for this world, and they carry the shame and defeat like a heavy weight. Their presence becomes tinged with bitterness and caution, and when they speak about their experience, it's with an energy of regret and finality. Now consider the second entrepreneur who has adopted this Stoic lens. They go through the same painful experience of losing their company. They allow themselves to feel the disappointment, but then they get to work on the most important project of all, the post-mortem. They sit down with a notebook and ask the difficult questions. What specific assumptions did I get wrong? Where were the weaknesses in our business model? How did my own leadership fail the team? What did this experience teach me about cash flow, about hiring, about market timing? They mine the failure for every single piece of actionable data. This process doesn't erase the pain, but it transmutes it into wisdom. When this person speaks about their failed startup, the story is completely different. It's not a tragedy, it's a case study. There's a light in their eyes as they explain the invaluable lessons they learned about resilience, about their own blind spots, and about what they will do differently next time. This is the essence of a growth mindset, and it is profoundly attractive. It tells everyone around you that you are resilient, that you cannot be broken by hardship because you have a built-in mechanism for turning poison into medicine. This attitude is contagious and motivating. When you are the person on a team who, after a project fails, doesn't point fingers but instead says, "Okay, that didn't work. What did we learn from it?" You become the team's most valuable asset. You reframe a demoralizing event into a collective learning opportunity, which instantly boosts morale and redirects energy toward improvement. You are not radiating defeat, you are radiating potential. This applies to personal hardships with equal force. A painful breakup can be a lesson in understanding your own attachment patterns and clarifying what you truly need in a partner. A period of ill health can be a brutal but effective teacher about the non-negotiable importance of self-care and listening to your body. When you consistently operate from this framework, you develop a kind of emotional and intellectual antifragility. You don't just withstand shocks, you grow stronger because of them. People notice this quality. They see that you don't stay down for long, that you have a knack for bouncing back not just to where you were, but to a higher level of understanding and capability. Your presence becomes a living testament to the idea that our struggles don't define us, our response to them does. By treating every setback as a teacher, you ensure that you are never truly failing, you are only ever learning, and that is a state of continuous, empowering growth that others will naturally want to be part of. Now, let's look at a concept that ties together so much of what we've discussed, this idea that the universe itself is not a collection of separate, competing parts, but a single, unified, living organism. The Stoics called this sympatheia, a profound sense of interconnectedness that binds every person, every creature, and every event into a seamless whole. Think of it like the human body. Your liver and your heart and your lungs are distinct organs, each with a unique function, but they don't work in isolation. They are part of a single, integrated system. If one part is injured or sick, the entire body feels the effects and works to restore balance. The Stoics saw the entire cosmos in exactly the same way. We are all individual cells in a vast cosmic body, inextricably linked by a shared rationality and a common origin. When you truly grasp this, it changes your entire orientation toward life. That stranger on the street, the politician you disagree with, the person in a country you've never visited, they are not truly separate from you. They are part of the same living entity. Their well-being is, in a very real sense, tied to your own. This realization is the ultimate antidote to the modern epidemic of isolation and loneliness. So many people walk through life feeling like an isolated island, disconnected and alone in their struggles, but Sympatheia reveals this to be an illusion. You are not a solitary drop in the ocean, you are the entire ocean in a single drop. This awareness fosters a deep, unshakable sense of belonging. You begin to feel that you are a vital part of something magnificently larger than yourself. This shift in perception naturally cultivates a more compassionate and universally attuned presence. When you see someone suffering, you don't see an other with a problem that has nothing to do with you. You see a part of your own larger self that is in pain. This doesn't mean you take on everyone's burdens as your own personal responsibility, but it does mean you respond with genuine empathy rather than indifference or judgment. Your compassion becomes a natural extension of this felt connection, not a forced moral obligation. Consider a simple, everyday scenario. You're stuck in a long, slow-moving line at the grocery store. The person ahead of you is fumbling with coupons, holding everyone up. The common, disconnected reaction is irritation. You might sigh loudly, check your watch, and view this person as an obstacle to your own separate goal of getting out of the store quickly. Now imagine you're viewing the situation through the lens of Sympatheia. You see the same person, but now you see a fellow human being who might be stressed about money, or perhaps is elderly and has difficulty seeing, or is simply having a rough day. You recognize that their struggle and your waiting are part of the same interconnected flow of life. Instead of frustration, you might feel a pang of patience or even offer a kind word. This subtle internal shift completely changes the energy you project. You move from radiating impatience and separation to radiating calm and connection. People sense this. They feel that you are not at war with the world around you, but are in tune with it. This makes you incredibly approachable and easy to be around. On a larger scale, this principle informs how we engage with global issues or societal conflicts. When you understand Sympatheia, you realize that an injustice against a group of people on the other side of the planet is, in a cosmic sense, an injury to the whole body, and therefore an injury to a part of you. This doesn't mean you have to solve every world problem, but it does mean you cannot view such events with complete detachment. Your circle of concern expands far beyond your immediate family, friends, and community to encompass all of humanity. This universal attunement is a hallmark of wisdom. The person who embodies this doesn't just care about their own kind, they care about the human condition itself. This expansive viewpoint is magnetic because it is rooted in a profound security. You are not trying to build walls to protect a small, fragile sense of self. You have a self that is so secure it can afford to feel connected to everything. This is the foundation of what people often call a larger-than-life presence. It's not about being loud or domineering. It's about carrying within you a tangible sense of the whole world, which makes you feel deeply grounded and infinitely open at the same time. By practicing Sympatheia, you become a person who makes others feel less alone, because in your presence, they are reminded of their own place in the beautiful, intricate, and interconnected web of existence. And from that understanding of our deep interconnectedness, we arrive at a powerful image that captures the essence of Stoic composure, the metaphor of being a rock in the river. Picture a massive, smooth stone firmly embedded in the riverbed. Above it, the water rushes past, sometimes a gentle stream, other times a raging torrent after a storm. The water carries with it all sorts of debris, leaves, twigs, the emotional turbulence of the people around you, the frantic news cycles, the pressures of deadlines, the unexpected crises. The water swirls, crashes, and pulls, trying with all its might to dislodge the rock, to wear it down, to make it move. But the rock does not fight the water. It doesn't yell back at the current or try to stop the flow. It simply remains. It is anchored so deeply in its own being that the water, for all its power, must ultimately part and flow around it. This is the presence you cultivate when you become the rock in the river. Your principles, your values, your core sense of self, these are your foundation, your unshakable anchor in the riverbed. The rushing water is everything external, the panic of your colleagues, the anger of a stranger, the feast and famine cycle of good and bad fortune. The rock does not become the water. It maintains its solidity, its calm, its essential nature, regardless of the chaos flowing around it. Now, think about the last time you were in a high-stress environment. Perhaps a family gathering where tensions were high, or a business meeting that devolved into a blame game. In those situations, you likely saw two types of people. The first type gets swept up in the current. They match the anxiety in the room with their own anxiety. They respond to anger with defensiveness. Their emotional state becomes a mere reflection of the chaos around them, and in doing so, they add to the turbulence, making the entire situation more volatile and unpredictable. Then there is the second type, the rock. This person might be listening to the very same heated arguments, but you'll notice their breathing remains steady. Their tone of voice is measured. They don't interrupt, they absorb. When they do speak, their words are not reactive missiles, but grounded statements of fact or clarifying questions. They are not cold or detached, they are present and engaged, but from a place of profound inner stability. This is the person everyone else in the room unconsciously begins to orient themselves around. In the midst of the emotional storm, they become the fixed point, the reliable landmark. When everything else feels like it's spinning out of control, people will naturally gravitate toward the one thing that isn't. Your calm becomes a sanctuary for others. A team member who is panicking about a missed deadline will feel their own heart rate slow down when they bring the problem to you, because your steady demeanor communicates without a word that the problem is manageable. A friend in the throes of an emotional crisis will feel a glimmer of hope because your stable presence makes them feel, perhaps for the first time that day, that they are not alone in the chaos. You become an anchor. This is not about being stoic in the modern, misunderstood sense of being unfeeling. It is about being so in command of your own inner world that you are not hijacked by the outer world. The rock feels the water. It experiences the pressure, the coolness, the constant flow, but it is not defined by it. In the same way, you are not repressing your emotions. You are simply choosing not to be controlled by them. You allow the feelings of others to wash over and around you. You acknowledge them, but you do not let them erode your foundation. This ability to remain grounded when everyone else is losing their footing is perhaps one of the most magnetic qualities a person can possess. It signals immense inner strength and self-mastery. People are drawn to this stability because it is the antithesis of the uncertainty they feel inside. Your rock-like presence doesn't just benefit you, it becomes a gift you give to everyone in your orbit, offering them a place to find their own footing once again. This next thought is one that strikes directly at a deep and almost universal human vulnerability, our preoccupation with what other people think of us. It's the understanding that your reputation is not, in fact, within your direct control. You can act with the utmost integrity, you can be kind, competent, and reliable, and still, there will be people who misunderstand you, who criticize you unfairly, or who simply decide they do not like you. The Stoics draw a clear and liberating line in the sand here. Your only job, your only true domain of responsibility, is to act in accordance with your virtues. To be honest, just courageous and wise in your dealings with the world. What happens after that, the opinions, judgments, and gossip that may follow, belongs squarely in the category of external events, as uncontrollable as the weather. When you internalize this distinction, you are performing a kind of psychic surgery, cutting the invisible leash that ties your sense of self-worth to the ever-shifting and often irrational opinions of others. Think about a public figure, an artist, or an innovator you admire. Almost without exception, their journey is marked by periods of intense criticism or public ridicule. If they had allowed the noise of external judgment to dictate their actions, they would have stopped creating, conformed, and faded into obscurity. Their power came from a profound focus on their work, on their internal compass, and a conscious decision to let the chatter about their reputation exist as background static, completely separate from their mission. Now bring this down to a personal level. Imagine you're at work and you make a difficult but necessary decision that you know is ethically and strategically sound. A colleague, however, takes it personally and begins a quiet campaign to smear your character, painting you as selfish or incompetent to others. The untrained mind would be thrown into a tailspin of anxiety. You might feel a compulsive need to defend yourself to everyone, to explain your reasoning, to win back their approval. You're pouring immense energy into the uncontrollable another person's perception. You are posturing not for your own integrity, but for an image you want to project and protect. This is an exhausting and ultimately futile battle. The person who has embraced this Stoic thought experiences the same scenario from a place of profound inner freedom. They did their part, they made the decision based on their best judgment and their principles. The colleague's reaction is that colleague's business. They might calmly and clearly state their position if asked, but they will not engage in frantic reputation management. They will not lose sleep over the gossip. They understand that their character is what they do when no one is watching, and their reputation is merely a shadow that others cast based on their own limited perspectives and biases. This release from the approval-seeking reflex is what allows your most authentic, magnetic self to finally emerge. When you are no longer performing for an imagined audience, you stop contorting yourself to fit what you think people want to see. The energy you once spent monitoring your social standing, crafting your image, and worrying about perceptions is now freed up. That energy gets redirected inward into your own growth and outward into genuine connection. People are exquisitely perceptive. They can sense the difference between someone who is trying to be liked and someone who is simply being themselves. The former feels calculated, slightly desperate, and can trigger a subtle distrust. The latter feels solid, real, and deeply reassuring. Authenticity is magnetic precisely because it is so rare. In a world where so many are wearing social masks, the person who is comfortable in their own skin, unconcerned with whether you approve of that skin or not, is a breath of fresh air. They are not trying to sell you anything or convince you of their worth. They simply are. This self-contained confidence is incredibly attractive. It tells others without a word that you are secure in your own value, that you are not easily manipulated by praise or flattery, and that your friendship or your word is not given lightly, making it all the more valuable. Releasing the need for approval doesn't make you antisocial or rude. On the contrary, it often makes you more kind and present. Your interactions are no longer transactions aimed at securing validation. You can listen to someone without mentally rehearsing your response to make yourself sound impressive. You can offer a genuine compliment without an ulterior motive. You can disagree respectfully without fear that the disagreement will tarnish your image. You become a person of substance, defined not by your reputation, but by the quiet, consistent, and virtuous actions you take every day, regardless of who is watching. Now we arrive at one of the most practical and transformative mental disciplines in the entire Stoic toolkit, a practice known as the discipline of assent. This is the advanced skill of inserting a crucial, deliberate pause between the initial impression that strikes your mind and your automatic assent to it. Think of your mind as a courtroom, an initial impression like "that person just insulted me," or "this traffic jam is ruining my day," bursts in like an emotional, frantic witness demanding an immediate verdict. The untrained mind acts as a rubber stamp judge, immediately granting assent, signing off on that initial impression as absolute truth, which then triggers a full-blown emotional and physiological reaction. The discipline of assent trains you to be a skeptical, wise judge instead. When that frantic witness enters, you don't immediately bang the gavel. You calmly say, "Hold on. Let's examine this testimony." You create a space for rational inquiry between the event and your reaction. This simple pause is where your freedom and your power truly reside. Imagine you're in a meeting and a colleague sharply dismisses your idea with a wave of their hand. The initial impression that rushes into your mind might be, "He disrespects me and is trying to undermine my authority." If you instantly assent to that impression, you will feel a hot flush of anger. Your body will tense, your tone will become defensive, and you might lash out with a cutting remark, escalating the conflict. Now apply the discipline of assent. The same impression arises, "He disrespects me," but instead of assenting, you pause internally, you examine the impression. You ask yourself, is this the only possible interpretation? Could he be under immense pressure from his own boss and reacting out of stress? Could he have genuinely misunderstood my point? Is it possible he's just having a terrible day and this has nothing to do with me at all? By examining the impression, you strip it of its raw, unquestioned power. You realize it is just one possible narrative among many, not an immutable fact. From this place of examination, your response is no longer a reflexive counterattack. It might be a calm, curious question. "I sense you have strong reservations. Could you help me understand your specific concerns about this approach?" This shift is monumental. It moves the interaction from the emotional battlefield to the rational problem-solving table. The person who masters this discipline projects an aura of immense self-command and wisdom. They are not easily baited or triggered. Others witness this and see someone who is not ruled by their passions, but who governs them. In a world of hair-trigger reactions on social media and in daily life, the individual who consistently pauses and chooses their response is seen as a leader, a person of profound depth and stability. This practice is a direct application of the earlier idea that your mind is your fortress. The discipline of assent is the vigilant guard at the gate, carefully inspecting every visitor before granting them entry to disturb your inner peace. It is the ultimate tool for emotional regulation, transforming you from a reactor into a deliberate, thoughtful actor on the stage of your own life. This practice of withholding judgment and releasing our need for external approval clears the way for a state of mind that is perhaps one of the most immediately transformative, making gratitude your default way of perceiving the world. We often think of gratitude as a reaction, something we feel after receiving a gift or when something wonderful happens. The Stoic approach is far more radical and proactive. They saw gratitude not as a fleeting emotion, but as a disciplined practice, a fundamental lens through which you choose to view your entire existence, regardless of the immediate circumstances. It's the conscious decision to focus not on what you lack, but on the staggering abundance that is already present in the simple fact of being alive. Marcus Aurelius began his days by reminding himself of the people and things he was grateful for, not as a fluffy exercise in positive thinking, but as a rigorous mental preparation for the day ahead. He would reflect on the warmth of the sun, the food that nourished his body, the teachers who had shared their knowledge, and even the challenges that would allow him to practice his virtues. This isn't about ignoring life's difficulties. It's about refusing to let those difficulties blind you to the countless gifts that remain. When you make this shift, you stop seeing the world as a place that owes you something and start seeing it as a place that has already given you everything you truly need to live a good and meaningful life. The air in your lungs, the ground beneath your feet, the capacity to think and feel and connect, these are not small things. They are monumental, and they are available to you in every single moment. A person who operates from this deep, abiding sense of gratefulness projects a completely different energy than someone who is perpetually in a state of want. The chronically dissatisfied person walks through life with a kind of psychic vacuum cleaner, always looking for what's missing, what's wrong, what could be better. Their conversations are often laced with complaints and comparisons. You can feel the subtle drain of their presence. They are constantly pulling energy from their environment to fill a perceived hole within themselves. Now contrast that with the individual who practices Stoic gratitude. They aren't naive or Pollyannish. They acknowledge hardships, but they don't dwell in them. Their focus is habitually tuned to the good. They are the ones who, after a long, tiring day, will still remark on the beauty of the sunset they saw on the drive home. In a conversation, they are quick to acknowledge the effort of others and to express genuine appreciation for small kindnesses. This isn't a performance, it's an authentic reflection of their inner state. This genuine gratefulness radiates a palpable sense of abundance and positivity. People are instinctively drawn to this energy because it is nurturing and uplifting. Being around a grateful person makes you feel richer, more aware of the good in your own life. They become a source of light, not drain. Furthermore, this mindset creates a powerful virtuous cycle. The more you focus on what you have, the more you notice things to be grateful for, and the more your brain becomes wired for appreciation instead of scarcity. This doesn't just magically attract good things in a mystical sense. It fundamentally changes how you interact with the world. When you approach situations with gratitude, you are more open, more generous, and more resilient. People are more inclined to help you, collaborate with you, and share opportunities with you because your grateful presence is a reward in itself. Why would someone go out of their way for a person who will only focus on what went wrong? But for the person who will genuinely appreciate the effort and see the good in the attempt, people will move mountains. This practice is the ultimate antidote to envy and resentment. When you are truly thankful for your own portion, you cease to covet what belongs to someone else. Your sense of self-worth becomes decoupled from comparative status, and you can genuinely celebrate the success of others without feeling that it diminishes you in any way. This emotional generosity is a hallmark of a truly secure and magnetic individual. Cultivating this begins with a simple daily ritual. It doesn't have to be elaborate. Before you sleep or as you start your day, bring to mind just 3 specific things you are grateful for. They don't have to be grand. It could be the taste of your morning coffee, the sound of a bird outside your window, the comfort of a warm bed, or a single kind word from a stranger. The key is to feel the appreciation, to marinate in the sensation of it. Over time, this practice rewires your brain's default setting from scanning for threats and lax to scanning for gifts and opportunities. You begin to carry with you a quiet, steady joy that is not dependent on external conditions. Your presence becomes a testament to the fact that happiness is not a destination you arrive at after acquiring certain things, but a manner of traveling through the world with open eyes and a thankful heart. And this brings us to a beautiful and grounding Stoic principle that ties your personal journey directly to the wider world. The idea that your primary duty is simply to play your part well. The Stoics envisioned the universe as a vast, interconnected play, and each of us has been cast in a number of specific roles. You are not just one thing, you are a citizen, a parent or child, a friend, an employee or leader, a neighbor, a member of your community. Your magnetism, your profound sense of purpose, doesn't come from trying to steal someone else's lines or covet their role on the stage. It arises from the quiet dignity and wholehearted excellence you bring to the roles you have actually been given. This is about finding the epic in the everyday, understanding that true greatness isn't about the spotlight you stand in, but the integrity and virtue you demonstrate in your own corner of the world, however humble it may seem. When you stop straining to be someone you're not and instead pour your full focus into being the best version of the person you are meant to be right now, you tap into a deep and authentic source of power. Imagine two actors in a play. One is constantly looking over at the lead role, distracted, mumbling their own lines with a lack of conviction because they feel their part is too small to matter. Their performance is weak, unconvincing, and the audience feels the disconnect. The other actor, who may have only a few lines, delivers them with such presence, such commitment, and such genuine feeling that the entire scene is elevated. The audience's attention is riveted on them because of the power of their focused execution. Life is precisely the same. We often devalue our own roles, thinking that being a truly present and patient parent is less significant than being a high-powered CEO, or that doing our current job with exceptional care is just a stepping stone to something more important. The Stoic insight flips this entirely. The universe itself has assigned you your current roles, therefore they are inherently significant. Your mission is not to wish for a different part, but to play your given parts with as much wisdom, justice, courage, and temperance as you can possibly muster. This mindset creates a presence that is both deeply grounded and incredibly attractive. People are drawn to those who are fully committed to their own lane. Think about a customer service representative who doesn't just follow a script, but who truly listens to your problem and goes the extra mile to solve it with genuine kindness. They are playing their part well. In that moment, they command immense respect and create a memorable, positive impression far more powerful than any corporate mission statement. Or consider a friend who fully embraces the duty of friendship. They are reliably there to listen without judgment, to celebrate your successes without envy, and to offer support in difficult times. They aren't trying to be your therapist or your savior. They are simply excelling at the role of friend. This consistent, virtuous performance makes them a magnetic center of their social circle because people know they can be counted on. The energy you project when you are fully engaged in your duties is one of purpose and fulfillment. You are not scattered, constantly looking for the next best thing. You are rooted in the present moment, attending to the task and the people right in front of you. This focus is palpable. A leader who sees their role not as a position of privilege but as a duty to serve and elevate their team will inspire far more loyalty and hard work than one who is solely focused on their own career advancement. Their authority comes not from their title, but from the excellence and virtue they bring to it. By concentrating on perfecting your own roles, you also free yourself from the draining trap of comparison and envy. You no longer look at the person playing the king and feel inadequate in your role as the gardener. You understand that the play needs both to be a complete story. Your job is to make your garden the most beautiful, well-tended garden it can be. This self-contained focus on your own sphere of influence is what the Stoics called living according to nature, fulfilling your unique potential within the grand design. When you do this, you aren't just going through the motions, you are adding a unique and indispensable thread to the tapestry of existence. This sense of being a vital, contributing part of a larger whole is profoundly satisfying. It answers the deep human need for meaning, and that inner satisfaction, that quiet knowledge that you are exactly where you are supposed to be, doing what you are supposed to be doing, as well as you can possibly do it, radiates from you. It creates a presence that is both humble and powerful, unassuming yet impossible to ignore. People are drawn to this congruence because it feels real, it feels purposeful, and it reminds them that their own roles, however ordinary they may seem, are also imbued with the potential for extraordinary virtue. This brings us to a Stoic distinction that can feel almost revolutionary in our modern, success-obsessed culture: the concept that wealth and status are, in the final analysis, indifferent. Now, this is a term that often gets misunderstood. The Stoics weren't saying that money, a respected position, or a comfortable life are bad things. In fact, they called these preferred indifference. It's perfectly natural and reasonable to prefer having financial security over poverty, or to prefer being respected in your community over being an outcast. These things can provide comfort, create opportunities for generosity, and make life easier. The crucial Stoic shift, however, is to understand that while they are preferred, they are not good in the moral sense. True good for a Stoic resides exclusively in your character, in your virtue, your integrity, your courage, your justice. A preferred indifferent is something that is nice to have if you can get it through virtuous means, but its presence or absence has no bearing whatsoever on your moral worth as a human being. Your self-esteem, your core identity, must be built on the bedrock of your character, not on the shifting sands of external success. Think of it like the weather. A sunny, warm day is certainly preferred over a cold, stormy one. You can enjoy the sunshine, plan a picnic, and feel the lift in your mood. But if you built your entire sense of self on having perpetual sunshine, you would be psychologically devastated the first time a cloud appeared. You would see the rain as a personal failure or a cosmic injustice. This is precisely what happens when we tie our self-worth to our job title or our bank account. We become fragile, perpetually at the mercy of market downturns, corporate restructuring, or the fickle opinions of others. Now imagine two professionals. The first has built their entire identity around being a vice president at a prestigious firm. Their confidence, their social standing, their sense of purpose are all inextricably linked to that title and the corner office that comes with it. Then a merger happens and their position is eliminated. The psychological devastation is absolute. They don't just lose a job, they lose their identity. They might spiral into depression, feel profound shame, and withdraw from social circles because the very foundation of their self-esteem has been ripped out from under them. Their presence, once perhaps confident in a blustery, title-dependent way, now feels hollow and defeated. Contrast this with the second professional who has internalized this Stoic thought. They work just as hard, they may also hold the title of vice president, and they certainly enjoy the benefits and challenges that come with it, but their inner scorecard is different. Their self-respect comes from how they do their job. Are they fair to their team? Do they act with integrity in negotiations? Do they handle pressure with grace? Are they courageous in making difficult decisions? The title is just the context in which they exercise their virtue. If a merger eliminates their role, they will certainly feel the practical stress and disappointment. But their core self remains unshaken. They haven't lost what truly defines them. They can look in the mirror and see the same person, a person of principle, resilience, and capability, who is now facing a new set of circumstances. This is the quiet, unshakable confidence that people find incredibly magnetic. It's a confidence that doesn't need to announce itself with luxury cars or name-dropping. It's a confidence that is simply present, emanating from a person who knows who they are, regardless of what they own or what their business card says. This detachment from external validation makes you incredibly resilient and emotionally independent. You are no longer playing the exhausting game of comparative status. You can genuinely celebrate a friend's success without it triggering your own insecurity, because your worth isn't up for debate. You can walk into a room full of people who are vastly wealthier or more powerful than you and feel completely at ease because you are not there to compete for social rank. You are there to connect, to learn, to contribute. This ease is disarming and attractive. People sense that you are not assessing their net worth or title to determine their value, and similarly, you are not using your own status to seek their approval. This creates a space for authentic interaction, free from the subtle tensions of social climbing and one-upmanship. Your presence communicates that you see the person, not their portfolio. Furthermore, this mindset liberates you to take smarter, more virtuous risks. If your self-worth isn't tied to your current job, you are more likely to leave a toxic but high-paying position for a healthier environment. You are more likely to pivot your career to follow a true calling, even if it means a temporary drop in income or prestige. You can make financial decisions based on wisdom and value, not on the need to project an image of success to your peers. This freedom from the golden handcuffs of ego is incredibly powerful. It allows you to use wealth and status as the tools they are meant to be, rather than being used by them. You become the master of your possessions, not their anxious servant. This doesn't mean you become apathetic or stop striving for excellence. On the contrary, you often achieve more because your energy is focused on the quality of your work and the integrity of your actions, rather than being diluted by the constant anxiety of protecting your image or your social standing. Your motivation becomes purer and more sustainable. You work to express your capabilities and to contribute, not to fill a bottomless pit of external validation. This inner alignment is something people can feel. It's the difference between someone who is acting successful and someone who is grounded. The former's confidence is loud but brittle, the latter's is quiet but unbreakable. In a world that shouts that you are what you own, the person who quietly knows that they are what they do, with virtue and purpose, commands a respect that no status symbol can ever buy. This brings us to a Stoic realization that stands as the ultimate antidote to the restless, grasping energy that so often pushes people away: the profound art of contentment. In our modern world, we are conditioned to believe that contentment is a destination we arrive at after we acquire certain things: the perfect partner, the ideal job, a larger house, more followers online. We live in a state of perpetual wanting, our happiness always dangling just out of reach, contingent on some future condition being met. The Stoics flipped this entire paradigm on its head. They proposed that contentment is not the result of getting what you want, but of training yourself to want what you already have. It is a shift from a mindset of scarcity to a mindset of profound and radical sufficiency. This is not a passive resignation to your current circumstances. It is an active, vibrant appreciation for the life that is already yours to live. When you master this internal shift, you cease to be a person of neediness. That subtle air of desperation, the energy that says, "I am not enough as I am, and I need something from you to feel complete," simply evaporates. Think about the people in your life who seem to carry a sense of quiet fulfillment. They aren't constantly talking about their next purchase, their next vacation, or their next promotion as the thing that will finally make them happy. They are fully engaged and appreciative of the present moment. They find joy in a simple conversation, satisfaction in a job well done, and beauty in an ordinary walk. This does not mean they lack ambition or goals. It means their sense of self-worth and peace is not held hostage by those goals. They are pursuing their aims from a place of inner abundance, not inner emptiness. This is the person who projects a fulfilled and generous spirit, because they are not perpetually focused on what they lack. They have an abundance of attention and emotional resources to give to others. Their generosity is not a transaction aimed at securing loyalty or affection. It flows naturally from their own sense of being full. They can listen generously without mentally waiting for their turn to talk. They can celebrate others' successes without a hint of envy, because another person's good fortune does not feel like a subtraction from their own. They can offer help without keeping score, because their own well is not running dry. This is an incredibly attractive quality. Neediness repels, contentment attracts. We are instinctively drawn to people who seem complete in themselves because their company is restful and empowering. They do not put pressure on us to fill a void within them. In a social or professional setting, the content person is not networking with a hidden agenda or scanning the room for someone more important to talk to. They are fully present with whoever they are with, making that person feel seen and valued. This creates deep bonds of trust and loyalty. Consider the difference between two leaders. One leads from a place of personal ambition and insecurity. They might be successful, but their team often feels like a means to an end, a stepping stone on the leader's personal path to glory. The energy is transactional and can feel draining. The other leader, who embodies this stoic contentment, is secure in their own worth. They lead from a desire to serve and to bring out the best in their team. They are quick to give credit and slow to take it. Their team feels supported and valued, not used. This leader's presence inspires not out of fear, but out of genuine respect and admiration. Their calm, generous authority is magnetic because it is rooted in a true lack of egoic need. Cultivating this begins with a conscious practice of savoring what is already here. It's the active counterpart to the gratitude we discussed earlier. It's taking the time to truly taste your food, to feel the sun on your skin, to appreciate the roof over your head, and to value the health in your body. It is regularly reminding yourself that people have lived and died without ever experiencing the comforts and opportunities that you might take for granted in this single, ordinary day. The Stoics would even practice negative visualization, imagining the loss of what they had not to breed fear, but to jolt themselves into a visceral appreciation for their present blessings. By wanting what you already have, you break the exhausting cycle of comparison that fuels so much modern unhappiness. You stop measuring your life against the curated highlight reels of others on social media and start appreciating the unique, unpolished, and beautiful reality of your own. This internal fulfillment makes you immune to the manipulative engines of consumer culture that are designed to make you feel inadequate so you will buy more. You become the master of your own desires rather than their slave. Your peace is no longer for sale. This state of being is not about having a perfect life free from challenges. It is about having a perfect appreciation for the life you are in, with all its imperfections. The content person can be striving and improving while simultaneously being deeply at peace with where they are in the process. They understand that the journey itself is the destination, and that happiness is not a prize at the end, but the very manner in which you walk the path. When you embody this, you carry with you an aura of serene power. You are not easily flustered by minor inconveniences or setbacks because your core happiness is not dependent on everything going smoothly. You become a stable, reassuring presence in a world of frantic wanting. People are drawn to this like a warm fire on a cold night because your contentment quietly assures them that such a state is possible for them too. It is one of the most generous gifts you can offer the world, the living example that true wealth was inside you all along. Building on that foundation of deep contentment, we come to a critical distinction that sits at the very heart of emotional mastery and the magnetic presence it creates, the profound difference between a reaction and a response. In any given moment, a stimulus arrives, a critical comment, a sudden obstacle, a perceived insult. The untrained mind operates like a pinball machine. The second that ball hits a bumper, lights flash and bells ring in an automatic, chaotic, and entirely predictable sequence. This is a reaction. It is knee-jerk, emotional, and often outsources control of your inner state to an external event. A response, however, is a completely different process. It is the conscious, deliberate, and chosen action that comes from a place of inner clarity. The key to moving from the former to the latter lies entirely in one thing: the creation of a small, deliberate space between the stimulus and your ultimate action. This space, which might only last for a single, deep breath, is where your freedom and your power are truly forged. It is the difference between being a puppet whose strings are pulled by every passing event and being the puppeteer who consciously decides the next move. The Stoics were masters of cultivating this crucial pause, and they offered practical techniques to build it into a mental habit. One of the most powerful is the simple, physical act of taking a deep, conscious breath before you say or do anything. This isn't just a cliché, it's a physiological intervention. When you are triggered, your body's sympathetic nervous system activates, flooding you with stress hormones that prepare you to fight, flee, or freeze. Your heart rate increases, your muscles tense, and your cognitive functions narrow to focus on the perceived threat. A deliberate, slow breath activates the parasympathetic nervous system, which acts as a brake on this stress response. It sends a signal to your brain that you are safe enough to think. In that expanded moment, you are no longer a hostage to your biochemistry. You create a window of opportunity for your rational mind to step in and assess the situation. Another powerful Stoic technique is to mentally step outside of the immediate situation. Imagine you are a detached observer watching the scene unfold from a distance or even from the ceiling. From this vantage point, you can see the other person's agitation. You can see your own initial surge of emotion, but you are not completely identified with it. This slight mental distance creates the room needed to ask yourself the essential Stoic questions. Is this within my control? What is the virtuous way to handle this? What would my best self do right now? By the time you have completed this quick internal audit, the raw, sharp edge of the initial reaction has often softened, allowing for a much more measured and effective course of action. Consider the tangible impact this has on how others perceive you. Imagine a high-stakes business negotiation. One party makes a low-ball offer that feels almost insulting. The reactive person immediately scowls, their posture becomes defensive, and they fire back with a sharp, dismissive counteroffer. The energy in the room instantly becomes adversarial. Trust evaporates and the conversation devolves into a tense battle of wills. Now picture the person who practices this Stoic pause. They receive the same low offer. Instead of reacting, you see them take a quiet, almost imperceptible breath. Their expression remains neutral, their body language open. They might even offer a slight, thoughtful nod. After a moment of consideration, they calmly say, "I appreciate you putting an initial number on the table. To help me understand your position, could you walk me through the reasoning behind that valuation?" This single, composed response accomplishes several things at once. It demonstrates immense self-control, which in any power dynamic is a clear sign of strength. It shows intelligence because you are choosing to seek information before making a decision. Most importantly, it keeps the door open for collaboration rather than slamming it shut with confrontation. The reactive person appears volatile and easily manipulated. The responsive person appears powerful, strategic, and in command. People are instinctively drawn to this kind of grounded authority because it creates a sense of psychological safety. They know that you will not be thrown off balance by emotional turbulence, which makes you a reliable and trustworthy leader, partner, and friend. This practiced restraint is not about suppressing your emotions or becoming stoic in the modern, misunderstood sense of being unfeeling. It is about processing your emotions intelligently before you express them. Anger, for instance, is not an emotion to be blindly acted upon, but it can be a valuable signal that a boundary has been crossed or an injustice has been perceived. The reactive person lets the anger drive the car, often leading to a destructive crash. The responsive person acknowledges the anger as a passenger, listens to what it has to say, but keeps their own hands firmly on the wheel, deciding the safest and most effective route forward. Every time you choose response over reaction, you are not just handling a single situation better, you are actively strengthening your character. You are reinforcing the neural pathways of self-discipline and wisdom, making it easier and more automatic the next time. This consistent demonstration of self-mastery is what builds a reputation of unflappable competence. In a world where so many people are constantly in a state of emotional spillover, the individual who remains composed under pressure becomes a beacon of stability. Your very presence communicates that you are the calm eye of the storm, the person who can be counted on to think clearly when everyone else is losing their heads. This isn't a power that is demanded. It is a power that is effortlessly earned through the quiet, consistent practice of creating that sacred space between what happens to you and what you do about it. This concept of inner joy, or what the Greeks called eudaimonia, represents the ultimate aim of the entire Stoic philosophy. It's crucial to understand that this is not the same as the temporary, fluttery feeling we often call happiness. Ordinary happiness is a reaction. It's what you feel when you get the promotion, receive a compliment, or go on a dream vacation. It's wonderful, but it's fragile, entirely dependent on things outside of yourself. It comes and goes with the tides of fortune. Eudaimonia, in contrast, is a state of being. It is a profound and lasting sense of flourishing that arises from one source and one source alone, living in accordance with your highest virtues. It is the deep, quiet hum of contentment that comes from knowing you are acting with integrity, courage, justice, and wisdom, regardless of what is happening around you. Imagine two different light sources. One is a firework. It explodes in a brilliant, dazzling display of color and light, captivating everyone for a moment, but it's gone in an instant, leaving only smoke and darkness behind. That's fleeting happiness. The other light source is the sun. It doesn't explode, it simply shines consistently, reliably, day after day. Its light isn't dependent on anything, it radiates from its own core. That is eudaimonia. It is an inner sun that you learn to cultivate, a light that emanates from the very center of your character. When your primary source of joy is your own virtuous activity, you become psychologically self-sufficient. Your mood is no longer a puppet on the strings of external events. The weather can't dampen it, a critical comment can't shatter it, and a financial windfall can't truly amplify it. It exists on a different plane, built on the unshakable foundation of who you are at your core. This creates a presence that is consistently positive in the most genuine way imaginable. It's not a forced cheerfulness or a pasted-on smile. It's a steady, warm radiance that comes from a person who is fundamentally at peace with themselves because they are living in alignment with their principles. They aren't looking for the next external fix to make them feel good. They are generating their own goodness from within. This is incredibly magnetic. People are drawn to this consistent energy like plants leaning toward the sun. In any social setting, we are subconsciously scanning for emotional stability. We are wired to seek out individuals who seem to have their own source of power and peace because their stability makes us feel safe. Being around someone whose happiness is fragile and dependent on externals is exhausting. You feel you have to walk on eggshells, worried that a wrong word might trigger a downturn. But being around a person who possesses eudaimonia is liberating and uplifting. You can be yourself around them because their inner state isn't your responsibility. Their joy is not something they need from you, it's something they share with you. This is the difference between a drain and a fountain. A needy person drains your energy, constantly pulling from you to fill their own emptiness. A person flourishing with inner joy is a fountain. Their positivity overflows naturally, nourishing everyone in their vicinity without any effort or depletion. Their presence feels like a gift. Think of a time you were around someone who was genuinely, deeply content with their life. Not because it was perfect, but because they had found a way to appreciate its depth and meaning. They listen with full attention because they aren't distracted by their own anxieties. They offer encouragement freely because they aren't competing with you. They can laugh easily and handle setbacks with grace. You leave their company feeling lighter, more hopeful, and more connected to your own potential for peace. This is the aura of eudaimonia. It's contagious in the best possible way. Cultivating this begins by shifting your focus from what you can get from the world to what you can bring to it. Every day becomes an opportunity to practice virtue. The joy comes not from the outcome of your actions, but from the action itself. There is a profound satisfaction in choosing honesty when a lie would be easier, in exercising courage when you feel afraid, in demonstrating patience when you are provoked, and in acting with justice when no one is watching. Each virtuous choice is like stoking the inner fire of your character, making it burn a little brighter and warmer. This is how you build a magnetic presence that isn't an act or a strategy, but the authentic radiation of a soul that has found its purpose and its peace. You become a living invitation for others to discover that same unshakable source of light within themselves. This perspective takes the practice of embracing fate and flips it into an active, dynamic engagement with life itself. It's the 23rd thought, to consciously see every challenge not as a punishment or a random piece of bad luck, but as a carefully designed training session for your soul. Life, in this view, becomes your personal gymnasium, and every difficulty is a specific piece of equipment meant to develop a particular muscle. The muscle of your patience, your resilience, your courage, or your creativity. This is the ultimate warrior mindset, one that meets obstacles not with dread, but with a certain respectful enthusiasm, recognizing them as the very things that will forge you into a stronger, more capable human being. The moment you adopt this lens, your entire relationship with struggle is transformed. You stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and start asking, "What is this preparing me for?" This subtle shift in questioning changes everything. It moves you from a posture of victimhood to a stance of empowered readiness. Think of a professional athlete in training. They don't view the grueling sprint drills or the heavy weightlifting sessions as punishments from their coach. They understand with absolute clarity that this specific, targeted discomfort is the precise mechanism that will increase their speed, power, and endurance for game day. The pain is not the enemy, it is the signal of growth. The Stoic applies this exact same logic to the arena of daily life. That difficult conversation you need to have is not a terrifying ordeal to be avoided. It's a sparring session for your communication skills and your courage. The project that seems overwhelmingly complex is not a setup for failure. It's a high-intensity workout for your problem-solving abilities and your focus. Even the seemingly mundane irritations, like being stuck in traffic, become exercises in patience, a chance to practice keeping your inner peace intact despite external circumstances you cannot control. This approach is inherently inspiring and magnetic because it radiates a spirit of proactive strength. Consider two employees faced with the same daunting, high-stakes assignment. The first sees it as a burden, a potential for public failure. They complain about the added pressure, their energy becomes heavy with anxiety, and they infect the team with a sense of impending doom. Their presence is draining. Now observe the second employee who has integrated this Stoic thought. They receive the same assignment and a spark of determination lights their eyes. They see it as their mission, their chance to test their mettle and prove their capabilities under pressure. They lean into the challenge, their energy becomes focused and intense, and they rally the team with a sense of shared purpose and adventure. They might even say something like, "This is a tough one, but it's exactly the kind of thing that will show us what we're made of." Which leader would you rather follow? Which colleague would you rather have by your side in a crisis? We are instinctively drawn to those who face difficulty with courage and enthusiasm because their energy is contagious. It lifts everyone around them. It makes the impossible seem possible. This warrior mindset is not about being aggressive or confrontational. It's about meeting life with a quiet, unshakable respect for its ability to shape you. It's the understanding that a smooth sea never made a skilled sailor. The most compelling and trustworthy people you will ever meet are not those who have had easy lives, but those who have been tempered by difficulty and have emerged stronger, wiser, and more compassionate. Their very presence communicates a history of overcoming, and that history is written in their calm confidence and their resourceful approach to new problems. They don't break when pressure is applied, they are forged by it. This makes them a rock that others can cling to in their own storms. When you consistently demonstrate that you see challenges as opportunities for growth, you become a living lesson in resilience. People watch how you handle setbacks and they learn from your example. Your courage gives them permission to be courageous. Your enthusiasm for the fight diminishes their own fear. This is a form of leadership that doesn't require a title. It's leadership by example, and it's one of the most powerful ways to attract and influence others. By welcoming life's training sessions, you signal to the world that you are a perpetual student of strength, always ready for the next lesson, and in doing so, you become a master of your own destiny. Now, let's explore a Stoic principle that serves as a powerful antidote to the overwhelming noise and complexity of modern life: the profound power of a simple life. This isn't about minimalism as a trendy aesthetic or a rigid set of rules for decluttering your home, though those can be byproducts. At its core, Stoic simplicity is an internal state, a deliberate paring down of the non-essential so that what is truly essential, your character, can shine through with unobstructed clarity. It's the conscious decision to reduce the clutter, both physical and mental, the endless distractions, and the chorus of unnecessary desires that constantly pull at your attention. Think of your mind as a pristine, still lake. Every new possession you feel you must have, every social commitment you feel obligated to fulfill, every notification vying for your attention, and every desire for a more luxurious or impressive lifestyle is like a pebble thrown into that water. At first, a few pebbles cause only small ripples, but in our modern world, we are subjected to a constant, unrelenting hailstorm of pebbles. The surface of your mind becomes a chaotic, churning mess impossible to see through. The Stoic pursuit of simplicity is the process of stopping the hailstorm. It's deciding that you will only allow a few carefully chosen pebbles to enter your lake so that the water can become calm and clear once again. When the surface is still, you can finally see the bottom. You can see your true self, your core values, and your deepest intentions unobscured by the turbulence. This is what people find genuinely captivating: a person whose mind is cluttered with desires for status, envy of their neighbor's possessions, and anxiety about keeping up with trends, projects, and energy of scarcity and restlessness. They are perpetually reaching for something outside themselves to feel complete. You can sense this internal fragmentation in their conversations, which often revolve around what they've bought, where they've been, and what they plan to acquire next. Their identity is tangled up in their externals, making their presence feel transactional and ultimately draining. Now, imagine someone who has embraced Stoic simplicity. They have critically examined their life and asked with brutal honesty, "What do I actually need to live a virtuous and meaningful life?" The answer, they discover, is remarkably little. They have divested themselves of the immense weight of non-essential possessions, commitments, and aspirations. This doesn't mean they live in an empty room or reject all pleasure. It means they are intentional about what they allow into their life, ensuring that everything serves a purpose and aligns with their values rather than detracting from them. The result is a person who carries a palpable sense of spaciousness and calm. Their energy is not scattered in a million different directions. It is focused, consolidated, and potent. Because they are not constantly managing the noise of a complicated life, they have the mental bandwidth to be truly present. When you speak with them, they aren't half listening while also thinking about their to-do list or glancing at their phone. They are right there with you, offering their full and undivided attention. This quality of presence is extraordinarily rare and magnetic. It makes the person you are speaking with feel profoundly valued and heard. Furthermore, a simple life cultivates a powerful self-sufficiency. When your happiness is not contingent on a new gadget, a fancier car, or a more exotic vacation, you become incredibly resilient to the whims of fortune and the opinions of others. You are no longer playing the exhausting game of comparison. This independence radiates a quiet confidence that is far more impressive than any status symbol. People are drawn to this self-contained strength because it feels authentic and reliable. You know that this person's friendship or respect isn't for sale. It can't be bought with flattery or lost through a change in your material circumstances. Their worth and their assessment of your worth is based on something far deeper and more enduring. Consider the difference in how two people handle a sudden financial setback. The person living a complex, desire-driven life is thrown into a panic. Their sense of security was tied to their lifestyle, and with that threatened, they feel their very identity is under attack. Their energy becomes frantic and fearful. The person practicing Stoic simplicity, while certainly concerned about the practical implications, remains emotionally grounded. Their core security was never in their bank account to begin with. It was in their character, their resilience, and their ability to live well with less. They can adapt with grace because their happiness wasn't built on a fragile foundation of material abundance. This adaptability and peace in the face of loss is a stunning demonstration of inner strength that others cannot help but admire. Embracing simplicity also means your actions become more aligned and powerful, with your energy focused on a few key virtues and goals rather than diluted across a dozen superficial pursuits. Your impact deepens. You become known for your depth in a world of breadth. You are the person who follows through, who cultivates mastery, and who builds things of lasting value because you are not constantly distracted by the next shiny object. This focused intentionality is incredibly compelling. It tells a story of discipline, purpose, and a mind that knows itself. In a culture that shouts that more is always better, the individual who consciously and confidently chooses less stands out as a beacon of wisdom and sanity. Their very existence is a quiet critique of the frantic consumerism and performance anxiety that defines so much of modern life. By choosing a simple life, you are not depriving yourself, you are freeing yourself. You are clearing the stage of all the unnecessary props and backdrop so that the main character, your unfiltered, genuine, and strong character, can finally step into the spotlight and command the attention it truly deserves. And so we come full circle, arriving at the foundational thought that contains all the others, the ultimate truth that the Stoics understood with crystalline clarity. You are, in the most profound sense, the product of your thoughts. Every single one of the 24 principles we've explored, from the dichotomy of control to the love of fate, from the view from above to the discipline of ascent, is ultimately a tool for mastering the one thing you truly command, the fertile ground from which your entire life and presence grows, the inner landscape of your mind. Your character is not a fixed, inherited statue. It is a living, breathing structure that is being sculpted moment by the chisel of your repeated thoughts. A single thought might seem as insignificant as a single drop of water, but just as relentless drops can carve canyons into solid rock, so too can your habitual thoughts carve the very contours of your soul. If you consistently entertain thoughts of resentment, your character becomes brittle and sour. If you feed thoughts of fear and anxiety, your presence becomes skittish and closed off. But if you diligently practice thinking like a Stoic, if you daily remind yourself what is within your control, if you actively look for the lesson in a setback, if you pause to withhold judgment and see the virtue in others, you are not just having a nice idea. You are performing the most important maintenance work there is on the architecture of yourself. You are literally, neurologically rewiring your brain. Neuroscientists call this neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to form new neural pathways based on repeated experiences and thoughts. The Stoics, 2,000 years earlier, understood this principle intuitively. They knew that virtue is not a theory to be understood, but a habit to be cultivated. Every time you choose a Stoic thought over a reactive one, you are strengthening the neural pathways of wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance. You are making it easier for your mind to default to that higher ground the next time a challenge arises. This is why the magnetic presence we've been discussing is not a mask you can put on for a meeting or a date. It cannot be faked for long. It is the inevitable, authentic radiation of a mind that has been trained for peace, for focus, and for virtue. It's the difference between trying to act confident and actually being confident. The former is a performance that requires constant energy and is easily seen through. The latter is a natural state of being that flows effortlessly from a core of genuine self-mastery. When your inner world is ordered and calm, your outer world reflects that reality. Your posture becomes more upright because you are not carrying the weight of unnecessary anxieties. Your gaze becomes steadier because you are not constantly scanning for external threats to your ego. Your voice finds a more resonant, calm timbre because you are not speaking from a place of frantic insecurity. People may not be able to articulate what they're sensing, but they feel the coherence. They feel the alignment between who you are on the inside and how you present yourself on the outside. This congruency is the heart of a trustworthy and compelling presence. Think of it as a kind of personal gravity. A person who is scattered, conflicted, and ruled by chaotic thoughts has a very weak, inconsistent gravitational pull. They are easily swayed and offer little for others to anchor to. But a person whose mind is disciplined, whose thoughts are focused on virtue and what is within their control, develops a strong, stable center of gravity. They become a person others naturally orbit around, not out of obligation or fear, but because their centered energy provides a sense of direction, safety, and clarity. This is the final, beautiful synthesis of all these Stoic thoughts. They are not a random collection of wise sayings. They are an integrated system for forging an unshakable character. By applying them, you are not just learning to cope with life, you are learning to command it from the inside out. You are building a presence that is not loud but deep. Not flashy but solid, not demanding of attention but worthy of it. This is the promise of Stoicism, that through the diligent cultivation of your mind, you can become the kind of person who walks into a room and changes its atmosphere simply by being there, not by saying a word, but by embodying a quiet, unassailable strength that reminds everyone present of their own potential for the same. And so we arrive at the end of our journey through these 25 foundational Stoic thoughts. What began as a simple observation, the captivating power of a truly grounded presence, has unfolded into a comprehensive blueprint for inner transformation. We've explored everything from the fundamental dichotomy of control to the profound art of loving your fate, from the cosmic perspective of the view from above to the daily discipline of measured speech. If there is one single thread that weaves through every one of these principles, it is this undeniable truth: a magnetic presence is never an external facade. It cannot be bought, copied, or faked. It is the inevitable and authentic radiance of a mind that has been consciously and diligently trained. It is the outer expression of an inner fortress built thought by thought, choice by choice. This is the real work, the work that happens not in the spotlight but in the quiet solitude of your own mind. It's the work of pausing before you react, of seeking the lesson in a setback, of finding contentment not in what you acquire but in the person you choose to become. Every time you practice one of these thoughts, you are not just managing a situation, you are actively sculpting your character. You are chiseling away the rough edges of reactivity, insecurity, and fear to reveal the poised, resilient, and compassionate core that has been there all along. This is the transformative power of Stoicism. It doesn't promise you a life without storms, but it gives you an unshakable anchor so that you can remain steady within them. It doesn't promise you constant happiness, but it offers you something far more durable. A profound and lasting flourishing that comes from knowing you are living in alignment with your highest self. The person who embodies these principles walks through the world differently. They carry a quiet confidence that doesn't need to announce itself, a calm that puts others at ease, and a genuine interest in others that makes people feel deeply seen and valued. This is the magnetism that draws people in, not because you are trying to attract them, but because you have become someone worth being attracted to. Now, the path from understanding to embodiment is walked one step at a time. The sheer number of ideas we've covered might feel overwhelming, but the Stoics were masters of practical application. They knew that wisdom is worthless if it remains a theory. So here is my challenge to you. Do not try to master all 25 thoughts at once. That is a recipe for frustration. Instead, for this next week, I want you to choose just one. Just one single Stoic thought to be your companion and your guide. Perhaps it's the dichotomy of control, Carry that with you for 7 days. Whenever you feel a surge of stress or anger, pause and ask yourself, is this within my control? See how that simple question begins to rewire your reactions. Or maybe you choose to practice seeing the virtue in others. Make a conscious effort every day to look past the surface behavior of someone who irritates you and ask, what fear or pain might be driving them? Watch how this practice softens your heart and transforms your relationships. You could pick the practice of voluntary discomfort and take one cold shower or skip one snack just to remind your spirit that you are stronger than your cravings for comfort. The specific thought matters less than the commitment to practice it with intention. Let that one principle be the lens through which you view your entire week. Write it on a note card and put it on your mirror. Set a reminder on your phone. Make it your mental mantra. You will be astonished at how deeply one single, consistently applied thought can begin to reshape your entire experience. It creates a ripple effect, subtly influencing your decisions, your reactions, and the very energy you project into the world. This is how you build a magnetic presence from the inside out, not through a sudden, dramatic overhaul, but through the quiet, daily repetition of disciplined thinking. This is your invitation to a different way of living. If you're ready to continue this journey, to go deeper into the wisdom that can help you build resilience, find peace, and live a truly good life, then I urge you to join our community here. Subscribe to the channel and ring the notification bell. We are constantly exploring these timeless principles, breaking them down into practical steps you can use to navigate the complexities of modern life with more grace, strength, and purpose. Your transformation is a journey, not a destination, and we are here to walk that path with you. Thank you for watching. Go out this week, choose your one thought, and begin the beautiful, lifelong work of building the unshakable, magnetic presence you are always meant to have.